write her every year and beg her to come. I tell her what a fantastic gathering this is, and I also tell her what a phenomenal audience we have. Please don't let me down. Please help me join together, and let's greet Judy to the stage.
Good morning, everyone. Caleb's right. I've been trying to get here for 8 years, and I'm finally made it. So it's just great to be here with all of you and be in this lovely community that's built around this Pioneers in the Bay annual gathering. I really feel that, you know, we come here to look for solutions to our problems, but we also come here to be in community because it's fun, and it feels good to be with others that share our values for building a more healthy, just, and joyful world. And I feel that it's really in community where we find the solutions to the challenges we face and our happiness. And I was really glad that the conference began with some indigenous spirit and wisdom because it was living in an indigenous community for a year where I began to see the importance of community and began to envision an economy based on community. Just after college, I was a VISTA volunteer in an Eskimo village in Alaska. And it was here that I saw how cooperation and sharing and community were not only enjoyable, but were really the key to our very survival. And I still remember the spring morning when I heard knocking on my cabin door, and I opened it to find an Eskimo woman saying, seal party, and beckoning me. And I looked outside and I saw all the women in the village walking across the snow carrying buckets. And I soon found out that the tradition is that when an Eskimo man catches his first seal in the spring, that his wife invites all the women of the village to their home where the seal is divided equally between all the families in the village. And then anything else that the family has accumulated during the year that they don't need is also given out. The idea of hoarding more than one is needed was unthinkable, unheard of in Eskimo culture. Eskimos had no sense of envy. If you said to someone, gee, I love that sweater you're wearing, they would take it off and give it to you. So you have to watch what you admire when you're around Eskimos. When I contrasted this as a young person to my own society, I realized that our consumer economy is actually based on envy, that advertising purposely creates envy so that we feel that we have to buy that new dress or have to buy makeup like the beautiful models are wearing, or we have to drink that beer or smoke those cigarettes or buy a new car like the macho guys in the ads. In our society, we actually reward people who are the greediest, and we actually admire the most the ones who hoard the most, the ones that are most gluttonous and consume the most natural resources by driving big gas-guzzling cars and living in big houses and having the largest wardrobes. Advertising programs us to base our identity, our self-esteem, our security on how much we have and make sure that we're never satisfied. Yet the Eskimos were the happiest people I've ever met. And they took great delight simply just in being alive. And I believe it was because their self-esteem and their security was not based on money. It was the community that provided their security. It was the sense of belonging rather than having belongings that made them feel safe and happy. So even though their lives were stark compared to ours, the Eskimos saw that Earth provides abundance, not scarcity, and that there is enough for all if we use our creativity and we don't take more than we need. From the Eskimos, I began to see that a sustainable economy, one that for them lasted for thousands and thousands of years, works in harmony with nature and is based on cooperation and sharing. So my own work toward building such a sustainable economy began as an entrepreneur at the White Dog Cafe. And my business was not only my teacher, but it was also my ministry. Because as I learned, I taught others. In fact, people used to tease me that what I really did is I used good food to lure innocent customers into social activism. So as Caleb mentioned, I started the White Dog on the first floor of my house as a muffin shop back in 1983, and gradually built it into a 200-seat restaurant with a large retail store next door. Without much capital, our first kitchen was actually an outdoor grill in the backyard. And we washed our dishes right in the dining room, where the customers would pass their dirty plates right over to the dishwasher, who stood there with the 3-bowl sink washing the dishes. And if you needed to use the restroom, you were directed upstairs to the family bathroom, and you waved hello to my 2- and 4-year-old children as you made your way through the house. And at the end of the night, the last waiter deposited the receipts under my pillow because we had no safe. It was the only safe place. So over the years, I built a business to employ 100 people and gross around $5 million a year, which was more than could fit under my pillow any longer. But I contribute this success by remaining a community-based business where I work to maximize relationships rather than maximize profits. And in the long run, this led to financial prosperity as well. During the time that I operated the White Dog Cafe, I had a sign in my closet that I would see every morning that said, "Good morning, beautiful business." And it was a daily reminder to me of just how beautiful business can be when we use it as a way to put forward our creativity and our care and our energy into producing a product or service that our community needs. Economic exchange can be one of the most satisfying and meaningful of human interactions. When I saw that sign, "Good morning, beautiful business," I would think about my own business and how the farmers were out in the countryside picking fresh organic fruits and vegetables to bring into town that day. And I would think of the farm animals out in pasture and sunshine, the cows, the goats, the pigs. And I would think of our goat herder, Dougie, who said that when she kissed her goat's ears, it made the cheese better. And I think that's true. I would think of the bakers coming in early to put the bread and the pies and the cakes in the oven. And I would think of the Zapatista Indians down in Chiapas growing the organic fair trade coffee beans that I would enjoy in my morning cup. Business is about relationships. Money is simply a tool. Business is about relationships with everyone that we buy from and sell to and work with. And it's about our relationship with Earth itself. My business was the way that I expressed my love of life, and that's what made it beautiful. Living and working in the same community not only gave me a strong sense of place, but it also gave me a different business outlook. Making business decisions in the best interest of the common good came naturally when I saw every day the people affected by my decisions, whether it's my employees, my customers, the man-made environment around me, the natural environment. At the White Dog, there was a short distance between me as the business decision maker and those affected by my decisions. And that's one of the principles of a local living economy. As a business owner living and working in the same community, I was more likely to make decisions from the heart, not just from the head. And they were more likely to be in the best interest of all those around me. And I have many examples of these decisions, but I'll give you one example, and that is about my relationship with the natural world. I had heard about the problem of global warming. I had also heard that Pennsylvania was deregulated, and I had the opportunity to buy renewable energy. I understood these principles intellectually, but I wasn't yet motivated to take an action. Then one summer, it's now been at least 15 years ago, we had a drought in Pennsylvania, and I was driving up to the woods where I like to hike in the mountains north of Philadelphia. And as I drove up, I saw that many of the farmers' corn crops were ruined. They were all dry, and they were being plowed under as a ruined crop. And when I got to my special place in the world where I like to hike, I saw that the ferns on Fern Hill that usually were lush and green and waving in the breeze were all shriveled up like brown tissue paper on the ground. And as I walked through the woods, there was an eerie silence. I came to the stream, and there was just dust on the rocks rather than the clear brook that had been as high as my waist. All I could hear was the crackling of sticks and the crackling of dry leaves as I walked, and there was an eerie silence. Not even the birds were singing. The fear of fire was in the air, and I felt as though the woods were actually speaking to me and saying, this is what it's going to be like with global warming. This is what it's going to be like. There's going to be droughts and fires in some parts of the world and storms and floods in others. And I became a tree hugger. I went right over to a big oak tree. I put my arms around it, and I hugged it, and I said, I'm going back to Philadelphia to do something about this. And as Caleb said, the White Dog became the first business in Pennsylvania to buy 100% renewable energy. And though I knew this was intellectually the right thing to do, It was my personal relationship with the natural world. It was my love for the woods that touched my heart and caused me to act on what I already knew in my head. When businesses continually grow larger and larger, that distance between the business decision maker and those affected grows larger and larger. And what we don't see, we often don't care about. When companies grow larger and larger, wealth and power, political power and economic power are concentrated. But by decentralizing into local economies, with local food systems, local energy systems, local manufacturing, we create more owners. And the more owners we have, the more freedom and justice, and the stronger our democracy. But because success in business is measured by continual material growth, there was a time when I thought to myself, am I really successful because I just have one little old white dog cafe? But I made a conscious decision to stay small because I realized that my own happiness was about having authentic, strong relationships with all those involved with my businesses. That's where my own happiness really lay. But we do need to grow to be healthy and lively. We have to grow in some ways. So I look for ways to reinvent growth. So rather than starting a cookie-cutter chain of white dog cafes in other people's communities, I looked to see what does my own community need. And I realized that we didn't have a retail store that sold locally made products as well as fair trade. So instead of starting another white dog, I started a black cat, which was our retail store next door, which added to the vitality of our neighborhood and produced an outlet for locally made products. There's another really great example of this in our Bali network of businesses, and that's Zingerman's family of businesses out in Ann Arbor, Michigan. They have a wonderfully successful deli, Zingerman's Deli, which could have been easily a national chain, but instead of doing a national chain, again, they looked to see what their community needed, and they started a fair trade coffee roasting company, and then they started a bakery, and then they started a creamery to make cheese and dairy products. They now have, I think, 8 different businesses in their family community of Zingerman businesses, and not only that, they've created more owners by partnering with employees to own each of these businesses. So not only did they make their community more self-reliant, but they also created more owners. After reaching a financially sustainable size, I stopped growing the White Dog Cafe physically and began to grow in new ways, to go deeper in my own community by starting educational programs which built a sense of community and interconnectedness with others and with nature. And education became a product of the White Dog Cafe, along with service and good food. And that's another principle of our movement, to have businesses be a way to educate our employees and our customers in sustainability. We took our customers on solar house tours and taught them how to do energy audits of their homes, and how the used veggie oil from our fryer was taken by a farmer out to heat his greenhouses and drive his tractor and heat his house and drive his car. All this from waste from the restaurant customers of his. We took our customers on farm tours and tours of prisons and child watch tours to understand the lives of inner city children. And through these educational programs, I began to understand that success in our businesses and in our personal lives could be measured in other ways than growing materially. We can grow by increasing our knowledge. We can grow by expanding our consciousness. We can grow by developing our creativity, by deepening our relationships, by building our communities, by strengthening our ecosystems, by increasing our happiness and health and well-being, and having more fun. In her book, Dancing in the Streets, Barbara Ehrenrich talks about the importance of collective joy and how we often are missing this in our industrialized society, which she believes has caused an epidemic of depression. That we have come to think that a good time means spending a lot of money and traveling to faraway places for vacations and exotic locations rather than having fun in our own community. And my customer bought me this book, Dancing in the Streets, because of the white dog parties. We have many, many parties where we dance in the streets, and I'll tell you about one of them. One of my favorites was our Liberty and Justice for All Ball, and on the eve of 4th of July, where we would have a buffet of wonderful farm fresh foods, and then afterwards I would put on a little skit called Birth of the Nation. And first, out came a Revolutionary War soldier with his drum, and then a midwife with her lantern, and then I came as a pregnant colonial woman with a clown face and a big beach ball under my, my colonial dress. And as I turned to come up the aisle to get into this big bed I had out in the street, covered with red, white, and blue blankets and lights and flags and whatnot, people could see on my back I had a sign that said, George Washington slept here. Then I got into my bed and put my knees up in birthing position, and the midwife would say to the audience, you know, 1, 2, 3, and I would go, push, and under the covers there's a hidden hole in the bed where I pushed my beach ball down into the hole, and then my midwife delivered my 2 twins who had been hiding under the bed. Liberty and justice, a white woman and a black woman with a liberty and justice banners and dressed in red, white, and blue, and they hopped on the stage and did a tap dance to Yankee Doodle Dandy, and then we wheeled out the tallest waitress dressed all in green as a Statue of Liberty and lit our sparklers and sang God Bless America. So these community celebrations have historically been sponsored by locally owned businesses. In the town where I grew up, our local grocery store used to put on the holiday party. Building a sustainable and inclusive local economy is not only our responsibility for future generations, but it's about reconnecting to our place and with each other as we build community, creating local identity through local artists and musicians and creative entrepreneurs, and increasing happiness and collective joy that comes from working collaboratively toward a shared vision. That's another principle of our local living economy movement. We throw a better party. Let's make it fun. A hallmark of the White Dog Cafe is buying from local farmers, which we've been doing for over 25 years. And one of those farmers who supplied the White Dog mark from Branch Creek Farm noted that farmers must have both feminine and masculine qualities to succeed, both nurturing and efficiency, and in the right balance. Too much efficiency can end up with mediocre vegetables, he explained to me, but not enough efficiency will end up in bankruptcy, no matter how much nurturing the plants receive. So Mark and other organic farmers mastered that correct balance of efficiency and nurturing of the masculine and the feminine to produce the most nutritious and delicious food in an economically sustainable way while acting as good stewards of the soil and of farm animals. Industrial agriculture, and likewise our industrial economy, our entire economy really, is out of balance and weighted toward masculine energy. A lot of efficiency and control, even domination, and very little nurturing and partnership. This severe imbalance between efficiency and nurturing, between the masculine and the feminine in our economy, I think, is most egregiously exampled by the factory farming of animals. And a very critical turning point in my own career came when I discovered the horrors of the factory farming of pigs. For a long time, I knew about the importance of buying only fair trade eggs and cage-free and fair trade chickens and eggs, but I didn't understand about the factory farming of pigs until I read John Robbins' book in the late 1990s, Diet for a New America, and learned about the barbaric way that we raise pigs in the industrial system in these windowless barns where the mother sows are kept in these cages where they can't take a step forward or backward or turn around, or standing on cement their entire lives and never breathing a breath of fresh air, never feeling a ray of sunshine. Although they're very sociable animals, not being able to touch each other and sleep in big pig piles like they like to do, or build a nest for their babies. They're artificially inseminated, the babies are taken away prematurely, and the process started over again as though they were a piece of machinery. But pigs are not machines. They're intelligent, sociable, sentient beings with feelings and emotions like other mammals, like our dogs, like us. They have the capacity to love and to fear. All the emotions that we can see on the faces of our pet dogs. I felt that this was a violation of nature to treat these mothers in such a cruel and inhumane way, and a betrayal of our sacred trust as stewards of farm animals, as well as having this institutionalized cruelty destroy our own humanity. But when I thought about it, I realized that the pork that I was serving in the White Dog must come from this system, because unless you know otherwise, that's where all the pork in our country originates. I realized that I could not participate in this system that I saw as evil, so I came into the kitchen and told the chef that we have to take all the pork off the menu, the bacon, the pork chops, the ham, until we could find a sustainable, animal-friendly place to buy our pigs, which we did, and began ordering 2 pigs a week. And then I found out about the plight of the cow and how they're supposed to eat grass, and we started buying grass-fed beef, and finally I got to the point where I looked at my menu and thought, well, we've finally done it. We have a cruelty-free menu, unless you're vegetarian, but for those of us who do eat meat, a compassionate and caring menu. That all of our meat products were raised on pasture and treated with respect and compassion. I realized that no other restaurant in Philadelphia was doing this, that this was our market niche. This was our competitive advantage. This was all about us. But then I thought, well, gee, Judy, if you really do care about those pigs, if you really do care about the environment that's being polluted by this concentration of manure with 10,000 pigs in one place, polluting the air and the streams and the soil, if you care about the small farmers being pushed out by the large corporate farms, if you care about the rural communities being destroyed, if you care about the workers in these places, if you care about all the consumers eating meat that's full of antibiotics and hormones, then rather than keeping this as your competitive advantage, you'll share this knowledge with your competitors. And that was a real turning point for me, because I realized that it wasn't enough to have good practices within my company, that there is no such thing as one sustainable business, that we can only be part of a sustainable system. Thank you, I had to move from a competitive mentality to a mentality of cooperation to build a whole local economy based on these values of humane and sustainable farming. So I asked the farmer who was bringing us pork, he would be bringing us 2 pigs a week, would you like to expand your business? And he said, yes. And I said, well, what's holding you back? And he said, well, he needed a refrigerated truck to be able to deliver to many restaurants, and he needed $30,000. So I loaned him the $30,000, and he bought the truck. Then I started a nonprofit, the White Dog Cafe Foundation, and started putting 20% of my profits into the foundation, hired our first employee, and it was her job to go out and give free consulting to the other restaurants in town on how to buy from farmers. And we started publishing a little book and so on. And over these 12 years, the Fair Food Project has connected hundreds of local farmers and local producers producing cheese and yogurt and candy and all kinds of things with stores and restaurants in our urban marketplace. But this act of cooperation and sharing was a transformational moment for me. And I was motivated to make that change to cooperate and share because of my love and my want to protect what I cared about, animals, nature, and the health and well-being of my own community. And I believe this is the key to building a new economy, that we've become desensitized as consumers, and also desensitized by a false sense of masculinity that's based on domination and control. We need to develop our feminine values in men and women both. This isn't about being a man or a woman. This is about the feminine and masculine values inherent in each of this. In order to bring our world into balance, we need to have both, and we need to be able to make economic and political decisions from the heart, as well as the head, in order to build a compassionate and caring economy and world and society. This is also true about how we invest our money. When my mother died in 1999, I suddenly became a stockholder, and I thought, first of all, well, I'll have socially responsible screen stocks that screen out stocks that use animal testing and make weapons and all that kind of stuff. But then when I saw my portfolio and there was Walmart, McDonald's, I was aghast. And I realized that I didn't want to have any stock in publicly traded companies. So I put all of my savings, I sold all of the stock and put all of my savings into the Philadelphia's reinvestment fund, where my money is used to make loans to small businesses and nonprofits in my own region. And I found out that, thanks. I found out that the wind turbines that brought the renewable energy to the White Dog were capitalized from this fund. So I coined a term called getting a living return, that when we invest in our local economy and community, we not only get a financial return, but we get a living return, the benefit of living in a more sustainable community. So in 2001, alarmed by growing inequality and the decline of natural systems and the weakening of our democracy, I co-founded BALI, the Business Alliance for Local Living Economies. BALI brings together the movements for sustainable food, for renewable energy, green building, community capital, alternative transportation, fair trade, independent retail, independent media, and local arts and culture into a holistic vision for sustainable regional economies. In local economies, basic needs are produced at home to build local self-reliance, while what is not available locally is bought in fair trade relationships to support the local economies where the products originate. So instead of a global economy controlled by large multinationals, we have this intricate web of small-to-small win-win relationships around the world where we trade in not what we need to live, because that is produced at home, food, shelter, clothing, energy, but trade in what we have excess of, or trade in what is unique to our region, a special fashion or a cheese or wine or whatever, all the different things that celebrate what it is to be a human being. Ultimately, I believe that when each community in the world has food, energy, and water security, that we're creating the foundation for world peace. BALI is now an alliance of over 80 local networks in the United States and Canada, which includes over 30,000 locally owned businesses and localists. Anyone interested in being a localist and interested in the localization movement, you can go to our website, bealocalist.org, to find out more about BALI and our work. Climate change brings an urgency to this work. We not only need to end our dependency on fossil fuels in this race against time to save our planet, but we also have to repair our communities so that we are not dependent on long-distance supply chains that are so easily disrupted by severe weather, rising costs of fuel, and social upheaval. Producing basic needs locally has become a matter of survival. Sometimes I think about these old-time movies where a town is preparing for a storm or a siege by an invading army. The wagons are rushing in from the countryside, bringing food and supplies, and the townspeople are working together, passing heavy sandbags from one hand to the next to pile up in front of the doors and the windows. At such a time, competition is not a reasonable option. Everyone is looking for a way to help, recognizing that survival depends not simply on individual self-reliance, but on community self-reliance. We can reinvent what it is to be an American. Rather than a country of rugged individuals, we can be a country of rugged communities. And perhaps we always have been. To summarize, the local living economy movement is about maximizing relationships, not maximizing profits. It's about growth of consciousness, not materialism, democracy and decentralized ownership, not concentrated wealth, a living return, not the highest return, a fair price, not the lowest price, sharing, not hoarding, simplicity, not gluttony, life-serving, not self-serving, partnership, not domination, cooperation-based, not competition-based, win-win exchange, not win-lose exploitation, family farms, not factory farms, biodiversity, not monocrops, cultural diversity, not monoculture, creativity, not conformity, slow food, not fast food, our bucks, not Starbucks, our mart, not Walmart, valuing life over lifestyle, and as the Earth Charter says, being more, not having more. So, I'm missing a page here. Well, maybe I'll remember, because I was told that I need to end by giving you some ideas of how you can take steps to help build local living economies. So I have 5. The first is to become knowledgeable, to pick the place where you want to live and to get to know it, get to know your community, your ecosystem, and take responsibility for it. Learn, where does your energy come from? Where does your water come from? Where does your waste go? Where does your food come from? What locally owned businesses do you have? Farm stands, pharmacies, hardware stores, banks, clothing stores? Is there local manufacturing of clothes, building supplies, food processing? Gain an understanding of what resources your community has and what's needed to become more self-reliant. The second is to join together, cooperate, and share. Join or create a community organization that is working to build a sustainable town or city. and address common problems. Work with your neighbors and local business owners to green your homes, businesses, and communities and reduce carbon emissions. If you're a business owner, join with other businesses and find ways to share solutions and sustainable business practices. The third, buy, invest, and produce locally. Build greater self-reliance by buying at local businesses and investing in local banks, credit unions, or financial vehicles. If you're an entrepreneur, start a business that your community needs. Produce a product that replaces an import to keep capital from leaving your community and build greater community self-reliance. Buy from other local businesses to localize your supply chain. See if your waste products can be used by another business, or if another's waste can be a supply of your own. Close those loops. The fourth, protect what you love. Open your hearts and recognize what it is that you really care about, and make decisions in your daily life that nurture what you love. And use your power as citizens to support public policies, local and national, that protect what's important for you, and protest and fight against policies that threaten what you love. And the fifth one, celebrate. Organize a community celebration, dance on the street, have fun, express collective joy, and take delight in being alive on our precious planet Earth. Thank you.